Welcome to Nightmare Radio, where the horror stories never end. It doesn't matter how crazy, how vile, how sinister, how violent. You can get as wild as you want with your story. The only catch is, it must have happened to you. Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker, is a horror anthology movie directed by several people. Check out the IMDb page for the full listing of the directors. But was presented by Charlie Goitia. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. If not, I do apologize. This was written by two different people, Tez Perea and Camilo Zafura, and has a bunch of people in it. I'm not going to list every single person involved because it does involve several stories, but it centers around DJ Candy, played by Paula Braska, who regales people during her late night horror themed talk show where basically she has listeners call in. She regales them with stories and they love them and they keep calling in and they call in droves. And even though it's late at night, it's close to midnight and then past midnight and there's something evil lurking in the dark. People are calling in. She's like, well, this story wasn't all that good, or it was great until the end, and she really knows her horror, but then something really horrifying hits home when a caller named Jack keeps calling in and things get a little bit too personal and a little bit weird and a little bit absolutely ooh. So yeah, from there we have a horror anthology movie where, of all the horror anthology movies that have occurred over the years, this was certainly one of them. It's on Prime for the next week as of this recording and is available on Tubi. I decided to give it a shot because why not? I mean, sometimes horror movies can surprise me for good, bad, or indifferent. And horror anthology is something that I like diving into. The VHS series, even though one could argue VHS Viral should have been the end of it, they've done two since, and apparently are doing another one. So you have Paula as Candy. She opens and is talking about all the talking about the horror stories, and they have to be wild and everything. You have to do some crazy stuff. And it does open with something of a lady in a house that seems to be haunted by something, and then we go to Candy talking about various things. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. And then we have the first story that involves a lady, her husband, and some foxes in a very desolate yet very, kind of creepy neighborhood where all the lawns aren't well kept, and yeah, the houses kind of all look the same, straight out of Bavarian. Thankfully, that short was better than Bavarian, but Jesus Christ, I shat things out better than Bavarian. The second story, a guy is in his apartment, likely on the second story, not house the second story, and he witnesses something on his television that, well, let's just say weird things are going on in his apartment. The third story, a couple people are investigating something at an old sanitarium where a guy wants to film a movie, and the girl's telling him about all this crazy stuff that happened, and then things get weird. And then there's the overarching story with this stalker, the Night Stalker as it were, hence the subtitle, kind of, getting a little bit, more biting with his calls to Candy. And then the fourth story involves a vineyard that has weird stuff going on in it. So that's pretty much the end of the spoiler-free section right there. But before I dive into spoilers, I will say that while this movie has a couple neat little ideas, it's really just an incoherent mess. I appreciate what the various directors and what everybody was trying to do, and while I've certainly seen worse, a lot worse, this wasn't very good. Again, couple neat little germs of ideas, and then there was actually, one more story I forgot to mention involving a car ride that goes tits up because they stop at the wrong place, and then things get a little bit weird from there with a drive through the woods. Honestly, this movie, though, is really just an overall mess. A couple neat little ideas and a couple things I wouldn't mind seeing fleshed out, and while I don't need explanations because anthology, you're supposed to leave it up to the imagination, figure out how these characters got there, there isn't a lot to really sink your teeth into. The violence is alright, the special effects are adequate, I guess. It was obviously low budget and they did the best they could, but could I recommend this? I mean, sure, you could watch it with some friends. You could see how you like it. I didn't like it, even though I appreciate what they were trying to do. I'm not going to say don't watch it, this is terrible. I hope everybody goes on to do bigger and better projects. Yeah, this really wasn't all that good. Again, it's on Prime for the next week. It's on Tubi as of now. Tubi's an ad-based streaming service. I'm not sponsored. Why would I be? But it's not too bad. There we go. Let's get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. Okay, so yeah, the opening bit has a lady, and her lights are blinking and weird shit's going on. The TV's starting. It's like this old VHS stuff, and there's a talking doll. Playtime, and then this lady's screaming stop because all this weird demonic noise stuff is happening, and then this ghost attacks her, seemingly. And then Jack kept giving her grief. The first story, basically there is a woman named Ellen, set somewhere in the UK. I don't know where, I don't genuinely care. But her and her husband are kind of struggling financially. She's also a bit weird, bit standoffish, has a fascination with taking pictures of foxes. There is like one brief sex scene, and then she's going all nuts and decides to go live with the foxes and becomes a fox herself. No, really, that's about it. That's really about it there. And I don't know why, is what it is. Or maybe she didn't become a fox, maybe she put her spirit in a fox. We don't see that. And Jack the Ripper calls in, and he's stalking her. Ooh, and the movie called The Night Stalker is just weird. Second story basically is very short. Guy sees a woman murdered on security camera footage that's on his television, goes to help her. He gets, taken, or he gets chased away, and then gets back in his apartment, and then sees footage of himself getting stabbed, and then he's bleeding out, and then it turns out that the caller is calling in and telling about that. But no, it really did happen. I swear it really happened. And then the third story, in the sanitarium, there's a woman named Mary that lost her baby. The doctor thought the baby was the devil. She ended up disemboweling herself. Now her ghost haunts the place. There's a guy named Chad, so you automatically know he's a douchebag. Not the actor, but anybody named Chad, there's an issue. And he's scouting for a movie. And then it turns out that this guide that works for the city or the state, it's a Waven or Waver Hill Sanitarium. It's one of the two. It turns out that she actually never got into medicine like her family all has, like her great-grandfather. That was the doctor there, and yeah, the doctor ended up being the guy that ended up killing Mary's kid and caused Mary's death. Chad ends up getting killed, for he is named Chad, and everybody named Chad needs to, well, probably name themselves something other than Chad, because just a Chad. So she's all freaking out. What do you want from me? I mean, your great-grandfather was the doctor that led to this woman's death. I think it's pretty obvious. So then she gets severed in a window trying to escape after this lady, the ghost is screaming, bring me back my baby. Give me back my baby. Well, she can't because you killed her. And then that's actually where the caller says, no, I swear it actually happened. And then, so Jack had been telling the story about this woman that had, kind of led him on at a bar, and he bought an expensive bottle of wine to basically, charm her. And then she ended up going to the toilet and then left with her friends drinking the wine. And he spent a lot on that, and it's haunted him, and it's angered him. And now he's shown up with an axe and a bottle of wine. Why not? Why was she in a house? Like, genuine question. Like, I know people work from home, but it just seems like this should have been some kind of old rundown station, and instead it was a rundown house. But nevertheless. Fourth story. Yeah, there's two sisters. I think they could be two friends for all I care, but I believe it's two sisters going to their moms. They stop off, one to take a piss break, one to get something to eat. And then there's this guy that shows up with bloody hands, a bloody woman in the back seat, and then he takes the one sister, the other sister chases after, and then she finds the car, and the woman that was bloody in the back seat was actually pregnant. The guy is laying on the goddamn windshield because the car crashed, and her sister's dead, but the baby's alive. He thinks that the baby was the devil, and the baby killed him. So that's about it right there. That's your lot. And Jack is still there. He axes the door a little bit just to talk to her. He doesn't axe the door the whole way down. We can't go full shining on this. And he basically says, "How about this? You unlock the door. I have my way with you and leave, and you live. Or I bust this door down, kill you, and take my time doing that as well." Then she says, "Whatever you do, make it quick and go away." Now, mind you, she unlocked the door, and then we go to the fifth story. That's about a son, a father, and a mother that's not all that healthy. They run a vineyard that really doesn't look all that inviting. It's straight out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This could be set somewhere in Canada or the moon, for all I know. And there's a mother and son. He ends up the son and the son of the father that owns the vineyard, whatever his name is, didn't pay attention, didn't really care at this point. I was totally checked out. Even though that kid was actually fine, that kid could really be good in some creepy horror movies. He basically kills the mother, stabs the son with a cork, because wine. After giving them a tour, the dad earlier had said, "What the hell are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. Like, we can't take on more people. We can't keep, attracting the police." Or he could have possibly been saying, "We can't get the lizard people out from under the earth to come and find us. We don't want to alert them." And yeah, the mother is totally screwed over, possibly being fed stuff because she's really a monster, or everybody's a monster. And yeah, that's it for that. And then Candy is covered in blood and had ended up killing Jack, and he's in the bathtub, and then she gets back on the radio to finish her show. That's Nightmare Radio, the Night Stalker. Gets an F, I'm sorry. I mean, it's got a couple neat little ideas, and I don't hate anybody in it or wish any ill, but I didn't like it. So agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.